Is Snowden still at the Moscow airport?
That's what Vladimir Putin says. He spoke in Finland earlier today and addressed the situation, the rising diplomatic tensions between the United States and Russia over the situation. He says it was a total surprise to him that Edward Snowden had come to Russia in the first place, that Snowden is still in that airport in Moscow in this this weird sort of terminal zone, where transfer zone, where people traveling through Moscow can stay. And he says that's not technically Russian territory, hasn't had to present a U.S. passport. And Russia has no extradition treaty with the U.S., so there are no plans to extradite him at this point. Putin also says the sooner Snowden decides his final destination, the better for Snowden and for Russia. And he's also was telling reporters today in Finland at this news conference that the country's security forces, security agents, have not had any contact with Edward Snowden up to this point, and any suggestion to the contrary was false. But he did offer somewhat of an olive branch again, saying that he hoped this Snowden would decide to move on his own. But this is escalating tensions between the two countries, and even Secretary of State John Kerry today saying he hoped it did not lead to a confrontation with Russia. So that's the latest. Vladimir Putin, the best insight we have as to exactly what's happening with Edward Snowden.
But escalating tensions, I mean, Peter, you really called it. Do U.S. officials think that Russians and the Chinese actually helped orchestrate this?
Well, they certainly think both the Russians and the Chinese could have been a lot more helpful here, and that is sort of the central suggestion here, something that both countries are flatly denying. The U.S., I can tell you, is taking a closer look specifically at the Chinese involvement. According to 4 American officials, U.S. intelligence agencies are examining whether the disclosures from Edward Snowden might be part of a broader Chinese intelligence operation. They have no hard evidence, they stress, of that at this point, but they are basically looking at the worst-case scenario. Is this possible? One red flag for them, Snowden's decision to flee to Hong Kong, his selective disclosures about U.S. cyber attacks on China and Hong Kong specifically. Why not other countries? A spokeswoman for China's foreign ministry today saying any suggestion China was working with Snowden, complete nonsense and extremely irresponsible. The Russians also, again, emphatically denying they played any role in Snowden's disclosure of classified materials and his attempts to avoid justice in the U.S. Here's the foreign minister, Sergei Lavrov, speaking earlier today.
We consider absolutely unsupported and inadmissible the attempts which we see now, the attempts to accuse the Russian side of violating U.S. laws and almost accusing us of participating in a conspiracy, accusations which are accompanied by threats in our direction.
So again, what started out as certainly an embarrassment for the United States and real problems in terms of U.S. national security, according to the White House and U.S. officials, has turned now into a diplomatic situation, a dangerous diplomatic situation, not only with the Russians, but also with the Chinese, Alex, at a time when the U.S. was trying to improve relations with both of those countries.
Yeah, Peter, a lot of questions as to the timing of Snowden's disclosure release right on the eve of the summit between President Obama and President Xi Jinping. Talk about a little bit about Snowden's job at Booz Hamilton. Are there any new details there surrounding his motivation?
Well, there are some new details that are raising some more eyebrows here in the United States. The South China Morning Post, which did an interview with Edward Snowden, who was back in Hong Kong on June 12th, today reporting in its edition that Snowden told them he sought out his last job in order to get more access to top-secret information. He selected this job for a purpose. My position with Booz Allen Hamilton granted me access to lists of machines all over the world the NSA hacked, Snowden told the paper. That is why I accepted that position about 3 months ago. Again, Alex, raising more questions about Edward Snowden's motives, the timing behind all this, when he made this decision to disclose this information. Did he seek that job out specifically so he could do even more damage?